Good evening, everyone. We appreciate you being with us. This is our regular meeting for the month of December. At the beginning of our meetings, we like to start with a moment of silence, and we'll invite you to join us, please, for a moment of silence before we start. Thank you. And we have some students that are going to lead us in the pledge. We'll invite you to join us. I'm going to ask Ms. Simmons to introduce them, and then she's going to tell us a little bit about Blue Ridge and what's going on there. So if you all to join us in the pledge, they're going to get up here and get on camera. And
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, these are two of our second graders from Blue Ridge Elementary School. This is Brooklyn Thomason and Eli Powell. And I'm going to highlight them this evening. They're both wonderful students in our second grade, but they are members of our new drama club that we started this year at Blue Ridge for our second and third grade. So Ms. Montague, who helps coordinate that, she has a few words that I was just going to share with the group. So for Eli, she talked about how he's a fantastic reader, that he reads with fluency, he always brings his characters to life. And he's also always smiling and a pleasure to have in drama club. And also one of the things he does is he sits next to students who might be struggling readers and helps them every time they meet with their scripts, if they have a difficult word. So Ms. Montague said that he is a wonderful person to have in the drama club. And he doesn't know yet, but he's received the role of the prince in our current production of Character Matters. So congratulations. And then what Ms. Montague had to say about Brooklyn is that she is made for the stage. She always reads her parts with lots of expression too. She looks forward to drama club every week. When she comes in the mornings and she sees the teacher, she always gets excited when it's Wednesdays, don't she, for drama club. She's got a positive attitude, and she was going to be out of town the week that the students were signing up for parts that they wanted to audition for. And so she made sure she let Ms. Montague know which one she wanted, and it paid off because her fellow drama club members also feel like she's the best person to play the part of Brooklyn's role. All right, part of the reason why we also wanted to highlight two of our second grade students is because we're going to do a little early childhood focus spotlight tonight from Blue Ridge Elementary. And the people that I brought from our staff, Ms. McGahey, our pre-K teacher, Ms. Broom, our math and science coach, Ms. Bowling, one of our literacy coaches, and Ms. Montgomery, one of our literacy coaches, is because they have a lot to do with what we're highlighting this evening. Okay. There we go. So just to start off, a few quotes. that early childhood education is the key to the betterment of our society, and we really feel that way at Blue Ridge Elementary. We focus a lot on our younger grade levels and also our upper grade levels, but if we don't have a great start, then it's hard for them to have a very positive future. Some of the things we'll be highlighting tonight also do with literacy. So we are looking into family engagement with our literacy, and so that's the reason for the other two quotes. A house without books is like a room without windows, and he that loves reading has everything within his reach. We like to try to think outside the box. So last year at the end of the year, Ms. Montgomery and Ms. Broom and I talked about maybe partnering with the preschools in the Seneca area, because they are the ones that see a lot of our students first. And so those are the list of our preschool partners that have those programs: Trinity Baptist Church, St. Mark, Seneca Baptist, our Clubhouse, Head Start, and Cambridge. So at the end of last year, we met, our administration team and Ms. Montgomery and Ms. Broom, and we have now set quarterly meetings that we meet with them to share ideas on how to best meet the needs of our pre-K and kindergarten teachers and the students that they serve. So we do notes for them from our meetings, and then Ms. Montgomery and Ms. Broom work on a quarterly newsletter with different resources and things like that that we share with them. So some of the sample agenda items is we share reading and math strategies. At our next meeting, the directors and teachers from these programs are actually going to bring some of the ideas that they're implementing at their facilities, so we can talk through that. We talk about the standards for kindergarten, so that they're aware and clear of the expectations that we have to have for our students when they get to kindergarten. And then we share different resources with them. Like this year, we're doing the Love and Logic series with our staff. So we talk about behavior management strategies and things like that with them as well. So it's become a great partnership that Ms. Broom and Ms. Montgomery have really done a wonderful job getting started for our school and our community. Then I brought Ms. McGahey. She is one of our pre-K teachers. She actually was awarded at the end of last school year. She was one of the 3 nationwide winners of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation Innovation Challenge. She submitted a grant project called Literacy Comes Home that was actually selected out of over 600 submissions for being innovative and effective in increasing family involvement. So at the beginning of this school year, we had a kickoff event with our pre-K classes where we invited the parents to come in, and we talked about different strategies with them. We actually conducted a read aloud so they could see what that looks like in the classroom, and they actually got a beautiful 5-shelf bookcase that they were able to take home in order to start their home library. And we also had books that came through the grant that we provided for them as well. So Ms. McGahey also gives them the opportunity to participate in home visits, where she could go out and meet with families individually and talk them through early literacy strategies. So by the end of this school year, each of our pre-K families will have 9 new books to start their collection with, and also reading strategy sessions from Ms. McGahey, and then Ms. Stiles, our other teacher. She's come on board this year, and Ms. McGahey has shared a lot of the information with her as well. Then we wanted to try to extend this to our kindergarten classes. So with help from Ms. McGahey, Ms. Montgomery, our reading coach who works with our lower grade levels, she worked with our kindergarten teachers, and they did some Donors Choose projects. So that way we were able to get additional books that were on the kindergarten level for the teachers to share with their parents and students. So we just conducted our first workshop with our kindergarten students too, that was set up similarly to our pre-K workshop. So we will meet with those kindergarten families 2 times a year and do strategies with read alouds. And the key is just to get the parents to read with their children at home. Not to be a teacher or anything like that. We give them suggestions, but just to have that family time and focus on the reading. So through this project that Ms. McGahey has started for our building, we're just excited to be able to give our pre-K and kindergarten students and their families the opportunity to grow their own home library. And there's some great pictures. That's the actual bookcase and some of the books that they get. That, I believe, is the pre-K selections there. And that's Miss McGahey with some of our kindergarten teachers, and one of the really nice Pete the Cat anthology books that they got, and that's their focus reading glasses that the kids created when they came that evening. And then down there's highlighting Miss McGahey talking to the families about different strategies and things like that, and a big cheese smile from one of our little pre-K students too. All right, now the last thing I'm going to talk about this evening is our reading lab concept that we have implemented this year with our kindergarten, second grade, and third grade classes. And Miss Montgomery and Miss Bowling, both of our reading coaches, have helped in getting this started. So we have created a time during our day where all students in every single one of these classes at these grade levels receive great differentiated and guided instruction all at one time. So it allows for our lowest performing groups and our highest performing groups to be met with every single day. Our two lowest performing groups in each class receive intervention of either LLI or Project Read. And also our kindergarten and second grade classes actually come to a separate classroom. So it's very focused just on reading and no other distractions. And then our third grade, Miss Montgomery or Miss Bowling has worked out where our interventionists are either pushing into that class, or we have an interventionist that pulls out a group of students from the class. But again, that's all they're doing during that time. We're able to collect data every other week using this lab to document the students' progress on specific skills, and we're constantly being able to keep track of their reading level throughout this whole time as well. So we get to benchmarking. We have a really good idea of where they're performing. So we have talked a lot about, really excited about all the benefits of the reading lab. It has increased the number of students that we're able to provide intervention to approximately 10 students per class at each grade level. And then all of our students receive the 30 minutes of small group differentiated instruction daily, but that's then on top of, again, what the teachers can then provide back in their classroom. So it's really a true double dipping type of program we have going on there. But we also feel like it's improved classroom management, especially in our kindergarten classrooms and our second grade classrooms. But in kindergarten, when you're trying to maintain classroom order and working with a small group and they're still learning, what they need to be doing, it's difficult. So this gives them the opportunity to come to a classroom where each group is either met with the classroom teacher, the assistant, or two interventionists, so everyone's working and doing something all at the same time. So it's very focused. And then in second grade, we're able to kind of warp that a little bit, where we have 3 adults in the classroom, and then our 2 highest groups are alternating between work they do on their iPads with Raz Kids, as well as the small group instruction with the teacher. And then with third grade, we have the teacher and 2 interventionists working with our students during that time too. So it's very organized. Our interventionists are hopping from one place to another, and they're busy all day long. But our coaches have really helped being able to get this off the ground and running. And so we're very thankful for that. So it takes a big heart to shape a little mind, and that's what I feel like our teachers do, but especially these 4 ladies that I brought tonight. So if they want to come, go ahead and come up, Miss McGahey and Miss Montgomery and Miss Bowling and Miss Froome. And I'm just gonna do a quick summary for Miss McGahey. She always takes initiative to think outside the box. For anything that I might see or she might see, she just goes with it. And she just knows how to support her students. She has a clear understanding of how important early childhood education is to the future of our students, which is why she pursued the grant that we talked about this evening. And she's providing our students and our families at Blue Ridge with the opportunity to bring literacy into their homes, which will be memorable for them for always. And she's a huge asset at Blue Ridge, and I just thank you for all her hard work. All right, Ms. Montgomery is our reading coach, or our literacy coach for our pre-K through second grade students. Ms. Bowling next to her has our literacy coach for grades 3 through 5, and then Ms. Broom takes on coaching for math and for science too. But these three ladies are probably some of the most busiest people that I know. They are dedicated and they go above and beyond to support not only our administration team, but our teachers and our students. They maintain all of our intervention programs at Blue Ridge. They coordinate monthly coaches meetings for our teachers. They spearhead a lot of our district PD and school level PD, and they do an amazing job. But they are a huge part of carrying out our vision at Blue Ridge. Their ideas, their feedback, and their expertise is valued by everyone in our building. And I'm so thankful they're part of our family, and I tell them and the teachers all the time, I don't know what I'd do without them, and I just thank you all for everything that you do. Okay, all right, and that is it. Okay.
Thank you very much for coming to our meeting, and congratulations on your school play. We're excited. Yours. Eli, here's one for you. Good job. Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you, Ms. Simmons, and all of you from Blue Ridge for what you do every day. It's always an exciting part of our program to hear the good things going on. Good job. Good to see you. Okay. Next, Dr. Thorson is going to be celebrating an audit report.
Miss Moore is really celebrating that. So Don is here from Stansel Cooley Estep and Stamey, and Brian is actually the accountant that we saw on a daily basis during the last few months. So they're here to give us an audit report, and we do want to thank them for their hard work to make sure we're doing things the right way financially.
And you all have information in your book.
I'm surprised nobody stayed for the,
Don't take it personally.
it's a pleasure to be here again this year, and we always demand a lot from your staff during the time we're here, but they always cooperate, and they're always very friendly, and they give stuff to us in a timely manner, which helps us out a good bit. Some audits we go to aren't always like that. You have to wait and wait and wait to get information, and it just takes longer to get the audit finished. And this year, once again, you have what we consider to be an unmodified opinion for your financial statements. That means everything's done materially in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We do have some reports in the back that are related to the single audit that we'll go over in a little bit. But for right now, I just want to point out a few items on a couple of the financial statements. When you look at the audit report, these are the first financial statements that you actually see. And the first one we want to look at is the statement of net position. And if you look at the governmental activities, that's a general fund, building fund, debt service fund, all the special projects. all that's added together into that governmental activity. And this is done on the full accrual basis, meaning we accrue everything liability-wise and revenue-wise. And you'll notice the total net position this year is $44 million for the governmental activities. And if you look at the detail of that, you'll see most of our assets are in capital assets, and it's offset by minus $106 million in unrestricted. And the reason that became negative several years ago was because of that net pension liability. If you look up that column, so you see $136 million. That's part of that pension liability. There's several items on here that go into that pension computation, the deferred pension charges and things like that. But that's why we always show a negative unrestricted anymore, is because we've had to start accruing the pension liability. That business type activities, that's really just food service for y'all. You notice this year we have a deficit of $22,000, so we've almost eliminated that deficit now. In fact, if you look at the page that's called Statement of Activities, if you look towards the bottom of the page, you'll see change in net position. This year, our change in net position for the governmental activities, we increased our net position by $2.7 million, and we increased the business type activities, which is food service, by $105,000. So we've almost erased that deficit in the food service. Those are, like I say, what we consider to be full accrual statements. The other two that are in your package are on the old method of what we call modified accrual accounting. And this is the way you normally were used to seeing your fund balances. And if you look at the, for instance, look at the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances. If you look at the bottom three numbers in each column, you'll see how much your fund balance changed this year, and then what did it do to our fund balance. So if you look in the general fund column, you'll see net change in fund balance went up $1.6 million. So we increased our fund balance from 19.6 to 21.2, and that's basically because I believe the revenues were $1.1 million more than what we had budgeted, and I think the expenditures were about $500,000 less than what we had budgeted. So that's basically why you ended up with that big increase in the general fund. Debt service and capital projects, that just depends on what we got going on every year, as well as the other governmental funds. So the only one we really have good control over is that general fund column. Now, if you look at, we did have to make a couple of disclosures this year that we haven't had to make before. If you look at the page that has the notes to financial statements, on that first page there's a note 13 called tax abatements. This is a new disclosure that we had to make this year, and all it does is tell you how much property tax revenue you lost by having these tax abatement agreements with manufacturers and whoever. In this case it was $2,749,000, and we'll be putting that in there from now on. It's not accrued. It doesn't affect your financial statements any. It's just for information purposes. If somebody was reading the financial statements, they can see how much money we gave up for these tax abatement deals.
Things that the county does.
That's right. Note 14 is a new one also, and this is going to affect next year. In fact, if you'll flip over the page and look at the last paragraph, right now we're estimating we're going to have to accrue another $108 million to your liabilities next year, just like we did on the pensions. So it's going to make you look like you're even more in the hole next year. This is for your health insurance that's built into the pension system. They're going to make us start recognizing your share of that future expense. And that's just an estimate of what the liability is gonna probably be for y'all, is $108 million. So it's a pretty substantial disclosure on next year's financial statement, but something we're required to do, so we're just letting everybody know what's coming with that disclosure. And then the last thing was the schedule of findings and question costs. We did have a problem with IDEA. We had some personal activity reports that were supposed to be on file that weren't on file, and the reason we did not question any cost relating to this finding is because Brian did some extra work and actually determined whether these people were teaching special ed students. Isn't that right, Gloria? Okay. But when we do our testing, we test not just IDEA, but it's kind of a random selection of personal activity reports. But the only one we had a problem with was IDEA. And then we also had to test IDEA because it was the program that we selected to test in detail this year for our signal audit work. And so we did even more testing on IDEA, and we found we still had even more problems with people not having the proper documentation, which is just a certification form. Isn't that right, Brian? That's correct. That they're supposed to have in their personnel folder. And, you know, we ended up with what, about 8 out of 39. 8 out of 39 that did not have it. So we felt like that was enough that we needed to mention it in our audit report. And I think y'all are doing something different now to correct that problem. So we haven't had a problem we had a problem the first year we did that procedure. Wrote y'all up for it that year, and we haven't had a problem since then. This is the first time we've had the problem surface again. But that's basically the only negative thing that we had in the entire audit. So overall, it's a very good opinion and audit. Other than having to disclose more and more liabilities, the future looks bright. It just doesn't look good whenever you look at the financial statements when they keep making us add 100 million here and 100 million there for liabilities that we'll never have to pay. It's the craziest thing I've ever heard of. Any questions from any of y'all?
And I put in that packet 2 other reports. The one that's colored is just some highlights from the financial statements. And then the last one is a general fund budgetary comparison, and it shows you how we managed to increase the fund balance. We had more revenue and less expenditures than we budgeted, so that gave us a $1.6 million addition to our fund balance.
And I think the revenues, that was just additional state money that they gave us later. And also, we got more from property taxes than what we asked for, I think. So, wasn't really under our control.
Matter of fact, it shows that Ms. Moore did an outstanding job in the budget process because she was within a 0.5% or something like that when you consider that we had about $1 million more in revenue than we expected. It was very close what we projected to spend and what we did spend. So good job by Ms. Moore and her staff.
And I will just give a little more detail on the personal activity records. The federal, when we use federal funds to pay for salary, we have to document that the people that we're paying are actually doing activities that are covered by those grants. So for IDEA, we have teachers and school psychs, people that actually work with our special needs children. And we had a couple that just for whatever reason did not send back their form at the end of the year. And then we also we got some money right at the end of the year that we had to use by June 30th. And so, and this is on me, I moved some folks from the general fund into the IDEA fund, and I didn't even think about having them sign their form. So that one's on me, but we are going to be tighter with our follow up on getting those reports back to us. They have to do it in December and at the end of the school year.
But again, nothing was being done wrong other than we didn't have a piece of paper documenting this is what we did.
When you said Brian
And
checked
Brian
that, Brian
checked
looked at the roster to
behind
make
us
sure the
to
kids
to
were.
make sure that our
Yeah.
employees were doing the right things. It's just we didn't have the right sheet of paper in the file, so.
Yeah, they just want to document that the people are actually doing federal-related work. That's what they're trying to get us to determine. So,
Anybody have any questions, comments? Okay. Well, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Don. Thanks, Brian.
Brian, thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Merry Christmas to y'all.
And I have one other success that we got an email about today that Ms. Moore's gonna pull up. This is the South Carolina Senate, Youth Senate Scholarship, or, let's see here, United States, I still don't see it there. There it is, the United States Senate Youth Program, which is held, you can see March 3rd through 10th. And the reason I wanted to share this, unfortunately, only 2 seniors from the state of South Carolina get to go participate in this. They do name 2 alternates. So 4 students over the state of South Carolina. And if you notice, Miss Erica Waring in the lower right-hand corner there is a senior at Seneca High School. And she is the second alternate. So she, as it stands right now, won't get to go, but she would be in line to go if the others are not able to. So we're certainly proud of her for being in the top 4 students in the state of South Carolina who, put their names in for this scholarship or this honor. And I wanted to recognize her publicly tonight because that's quite an honor to be. Anytime you're top 4 in the state, that's pretty good company. So we're proud of Erica, and Erica's mother is a teacher at Seneca High School, so proud of her as well.
Good job. And she's got her start at code. Just thought I'd throw that in. I know the principal was there.
Couldn't have been when Andy was there.
Yeah. I left shortly after.
Okay.
Okay, that next is, we need a motion to approve the December 11 regular board meeting agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the agenda for the December 11th, 2017 regular board meeting.
Second.
Motion and second. Anybody have any comments? None, all in favor? It's unanimous. Next, I have public comment. If there's anyone who'd like to address the board, nobody signed up. I wasn't signed up to this, so okay, well, moving on then. Approval of minutes, Exhibit 1, November 13. If we get a motion to approve the November 13 work session minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the November 13th, 2017 work session meeting minutes.
Second. A motion and a second. All in favor? It's unanimous as well. Then division reports, we'll go back. Ms. Cameron, Ms. Moore.
Right. Well, you had the financial report, and everything seems to be about normal for this time of year. We don't know if you had any particular questions about any of that information. We try to look at the checks to see, and everything is.
I have a question on I was just looking at when it has supplies by the different departments, is that like kindergarten supplies, is that classroom supplies, or does that include paper towels and?
It should be classroom supplies.
Okay, because I know some of them have spent a large portion, or, we're basically now halfway through the year. Some have hardly spent any. I just wonder why. I mean, it looks like to me they would spend a lot of supply money at the beginning of the year unless they had carryover stuff they stocked up on or something.
I totally agree. It makes good sense to me that you would buy in the beginning so that you could use it all year. And it's hard to tell from this report who has used their money and who hasn't for it, because that's all the kindergarten programs. That's every school's program, so it's all together. We can ask, we're gonna meet with the principals this week, so we can ask.
I was
what
just
they're
curious,
thinking.
because at different grade levels, I mean.
And we can get
you
a-
can see the,
We can get a different report that would break it down by school so that we can see which schools have spent their money and which schools have not. Because you're right, we would prefer the money being spent in August and September so that those supplies are benefiting students all year,
and I know
for the most part.
I get comments from parents at the beginning of the school year, well, they send a list home with children, you know, we want them to send stuff in. Well, if we've got, and we do give the money for supplies, and then we're not spending it,
We
I
tell them
don't
they
think
put
we
that,
ought to be asking
well, we tell them they
parents
put
to
that list
send
out there not to have a wish list on it.
Yeah,
And
don't,
we try to tell them to keep it below a certain dollar amount too, on there, so that they don't overwhelm parents. I've seen them get lists that are
well,
$125 worth, and we worked hard to have generic lists for the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school to cut that down.
I notice my grandchildren have that in the lower part of the state, and I mean, it gets out of hand. And
Can.
if you've got 3 children in one family in school, and you don't want your child to come in and not bring anything, so.
Right.
Supplies,
That's correct.
they don't have to, but that was the only one that really kind of jumped out, as I wonder why we were
I will prepare
such a difference.
a more detailed report and just email it, since this is well, that's not quite the end of the half of the year, but
Well, it will be soon, but.
yes, I'll do that.
And if there's anybody that looks like we'll have a conversation with them. Any other questions on that?
Anybody see anything under these checks or expenditures?
Okay. If not, I'd like to move on, and you have your Career Center drawn. We're going to talk about the building plan update. And first off, I want to say this is Richard Alexander thought about this and came up with this for us to maybe repurpose the Hamilton Career Center when y'all got it sideways?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't
Yeah, you
rotate
can't
that.
flip
And
it.
you can't make it,
Flip, I try.
just do it crooked.
Okay, go ahead.
You,
It won't
you want to
rotate.
go, print? We go to the next, can we do that? You just print some code? Is that okay? I can talk about it before
Go ahead.
we
Yeah,
go
please
through. I
talk.
can give you the
Yeah,
background
don't
on it.
wait, yeah.
Of course, if you see on
can do that.
our financial statement, you see that we are currently involved in the project at the Workforce Development Center, and Tri-County Tech is putting their building up. And Ms. Hopkins and Dr. Thorson have met, and we're excited about the opportunity we're going to have for 8 right now, and maybe up to 11 dual credit classes out there. Our kids will actually be on the Tri-County campus in their building taking it. So that building is going up, and if you ride down Highway 11, you can see it. It's ready. It'll be operational in August of 18. Of course, our plan was to build a new career center, and we also talked about building adult ed out there. We've had meetings. The county was also going to do some work out there that they kind of slowed down their process with building an economic development office out there and a big conference center. We continue to move forward with the career center plans, but we've kind of stepped back and reevaluated the plan for adult ed, and there's a couple reasons why. One is the potential to save about $2.75 million. But number 2 is that we can look at the current career center that we have, and it's a central location for the populace of Oconee County, and the building's still in good shape. So Richard and Ken Williams looked through there, and they laid out a plan, which we're going to show you shortly, where we could potentially bring some programs together in the center of the county population-wise, while saving money on the Tri-County / Career
That was
Center
gonna be a
campus.
separate building too, wasn't it?
It was gonna be a
adult
separate, standalone building, and we've still got, we've still got a potential plan for it, but we've also would still leave the location if it was decided later on that it needed to be there. One of the main reasons when we looked at building that there was because we thought we could take our adult ed students and just move them into Tri-County, and while you can do that, it's not as likely that they're going to go straight into a degree program as it is they may use the JobWorks site, which is located on the current Career Center campus. So when we talked about it, they laid out the building, and you can see here, we talked about moving our alternative program from Oconee Academy here, and that would be of tremendous help for transportation for us as a district. Instead of having buses come from all over to the Walhalla area, we could have our alternative program there, Oconee Academy. We could have adult ed there. We would move the current maintenance operation from that facility it's in into this building, so we'd be able to close down that property. We'd be able to close down at Walhalla, the old Walhalla Middle where Oconee Academy is, because food services and our Child Find program are on this map as well. And we would be able to give the Blue Ridge Committee all of that building, like we plan to do when we leave the code building, and bring adult ed over here. And we could also get out of the wood shop / welding shop that we have still on the Oakway property that the county has out there where the gym is at the old Oakway Middle School and Oakway Intermediate School. We had one of our architects do a walkthrough, no code issues, none of those kind of things. We met with Ms. Kamick and we talked about the potential for maybe getting the CAT bus on this route and to the new campus, Oconee County, Tri-County Tech campus, the Oconee location of that. And we think that this facility still has a good bit of use for it, and that we could basically go from 3.5 facilities to 1. Again, we could get out of the business at Code, get out of the business at the current Oconee Academy. We'd work with the Senior Solutions folks there, get out of business at our current maintenance and bus shop back there, and get out of the Oakway property and consolidate all that into this. Our adult ed folks, we oftentimes have kids who go from the alternative school. We recommend them straight to adult ed. Well, they'd walk down the hallway and they would be there. Our adult ed folks who wanted job training, the Tri-County Tech Job Works Center is right there at the front of the campus. So we have looked at this, and we wanted to present it to you all to get feedback and to see, because we need to make a decision, because we are going to, if not, we're going to need to continue on with making plans and having designs done for the adult ed building. We're currently working on the Career Center part of that. And we also need to, we would not occupy this space in this manner until August of 2020. So, I mean, it's not something that's going to happen next year. But if we can get your blessing, we would like to adjust our long-range building plan to make this part of it adjust and no longer do a brand-new adult ed out on the workforce development site, and to move the other facilities that you see here listed down to centralize a lot of our county-wide programs. So I know I threw a lot out there at you in a short period of time, but I'm happy to answer any questions or provide any other feedback you need.
The part that you've got labeled up here, training and 1, 2, 3, is that?
It's transportation.
Transportation. I was just trying to match the color of it.
Yeah, Ken did that for me. Maybe he should have put, that should be transportation. We've got some other training areas.
But that would be training for bus drivers.
Right,
I think
yeah,
is
right.
what
You
it
could do bus, it'd be like a
Do the
conference.
bus classes for CDL. that kind of-
Talking about here?
Yes.
Yes, sir. And the nurses building?
Purchasing.
Yes.
Purchasing be on the left side of that.
Yep.
Okay.
It's got got the gate there, you can lock things up. The tall bay areas are conducive for the warehouse. Obviously, there's a welding shop already there. The auto body place would be great for our mechanics. I mean, it just kind of lends itself as a natural fit. We talked about talking with Mr. Molder and Richard Blackwell about the potential for the current maintenance property. Maybe that's something the county could use. It's going to be right by the new fire substation, or a business would do that. Sometimes I know, like Schneider Electric has purchased one of the older or the non-used facilities there by Headley Nursery to use as a warehouse storage. That maybe and it'd be a great one, you know.
Because that's what it was built for.
Right.
It was
So, I
built
mean,
when
it's
we
a-
had a warehouse that.
And it's
where we
got a loading
stopped.
dock, and it's perfect for that. So, we just, you know, when Richard came to me, I'm like, I'm not sure, and then he laid it out and did some time and that, and then I said, well, let's talk to Dr. Thorsland and see if we can go, because I know that adult ed part was one of the things we talked about. But we've talked about it with economic development, we've talked about it with Tri-County Tech, we've talked about it with the county council chairperson. None of them have a concern. None of them feel like we're backing out of what we've done. You know, they didn't do the pad for the adult ed part like they did for the career center and that. And we could always, if another group in our position, or you know, that decided later on, there's going to be a perfect spot left for it for additions later on.
Well, you've got time to, I think it's very important that we do something with those maintenance buildings and we don't have facilities sitting empty.
Right. And
And
we
need
agree.
to
And
explore what to do in Walhalla too with.
And what we need to figure out is if this is a go, because what it's going to do is, again, it's going to save us money. We're not going to have McMillan, Patterson, Smith design a building that we're not going to need, number one, with adult ed. And then we have to do a little bit of planning to make some adjustments. I'm after talking with Richard and the architect, we're guessing that, you know, we might have to put you know, $150,000 into this that we save off the other. I mean, we're going to have to do some security things. We have to put in some double doors for egress to separate adult ed and maintenance and alternative school and that kind of stuff. But as far as like the floors, those are fine for running the forklift over them and that kind of thing, bringing the buses in, that's already set up for that. I mean, it just seems to work out ideally, honestly. And think about the energy savings when we go from 3.5 buildings to one, but we're going to then be adding on a state-of-the-art career center. So,
Question,
sure.
the alternative school and food service, so the old middle school is gonna be shut down? What about Senior Solutions that's sitting in there now?
Right, we would talk to them. That's why the 2 years is a lot of time. We've even talked about the folks that currently use downstairs are moving out when they've got a house up near law enforcement center. When they get some repairs done, they're going to move there. We talked about them being there, but we would give them plenty of notice to work with them on finding a new location.
Geographically speaking, that's probably a better location for adult ed than Highway 11.
I think so.
It is for adult ed, it is for our alternative school, we think it is for child find. Food service, when we talked to them about it, I talked to the folks in my department, you know, we just mentioned it as a possibility. They were excited. The alternative school, the only question they have is they're currently able to do a PE class, and they're wondering about the possibility of how we can continue that, but we're going to meet with them in the next week to work on that kind of thing. So that's where we are at this point. Yes, sir.
The kitchen and the lunchroom area, are we gonna have to make any modifications to that to accommodate the kids?
No, sir. Actually, Scott was real excited about that part too, because he said that's way more room than what they have now, and that's Coach Quick's facility right there. And
correct.
so we would use that. We could either, depending upon, you know, at the alternative school, the enrollment starts out slow and low and grows as we go. We think that we could even, you know, just have the cafeteria in that part, but if not, we have that conference room where we could use that as the actual eating place.
I was concerned with exhaust fans?
No,
and
it's set up.
all that stainless steel that you all need in a cafeteria?
It's set up because it's where Coach Quick has his culinary arts class.
Okay, good.
So it would be ideal. And it would still have the small considerate cafe,
Right.
place as well. So,
She, what about the cat bus coming here?
yeah, well, Ms. Kamick is going to try to make that, because we think it can come up and make a straight shot down, Bounty Land and come out at Critter Road and be right at the other building as well. So in her talk with the, cat bus folks and that, she's going to push to try to help us get that as well, because that is very important to us, is that we have cat bus.
There's also a push to have the bus come on up to Walhalla.
Well, they're talking about that as well. But she is aware of what we're looking at doing, and she is on board with helping us as far as trying to talk about the cat bus and seeing if they can have any help with that. Because we know we're already going to have to extend it out to the other campus. That's part of the
Right.
goal.
Ed, one more question.
Sure.
If memory serves me correctly, at Code, technology had a storage facility, a storage room?
We don't use that anymore.
Okay.
We cleaned
I
that
didn't
out.
know.
When we gave that, basically gave that side to the Blue Ridge Committee,
Okay.
we cleaned that part out and
All right.
got what we could get out of there and got rid of the rest.
This looks like it has a lot of potential.
Yeah, very good.
Well, I'll give credit to Richard for thinking outside the box with this, and I hope that we can move forward with this plan, because I think it'll benefit the whole district.
If we need to take some formal action at some point, I mean, it doesn't have to be now, but, because
We
we're
can.
changing the plan,
Yes, sir.
particularly
I'm not
for-
sure if we did on the other 5-year plan about that, but because we're in agreement with that, I think that would be good to have it on record with the board. Yes, sir.
If you have questions, let them know, but we can do this in January.
Right. Yeah, that'd
Sometime,
be
it
great.
doesn't have to be
Okay.
this way.
Thank you very much for that,
Thank
Clark.
you. All right.
All right, you should have a packet in a manila folder there that gives you the information on the calendar. It's divided out a couple ways. The first part should be the one where 349 folks participated, and that includes 74% teachers, 14% support staff, and then other. I guess that could be administrators, that could be bus drivers, that could be custodians, cafeteria workers, whomever, because I sent it to the entire district. And you can see the numbers with the overall, the 349, a tad over 51% said that they are in favor. A tad under 30 said that they weren't, and then about 20% said they didn't care either way. So to me, if you don't care either way enough to say no, I consider that as in the.
Did we give them another choice, because you were gonna do?
No, we didn't give them. We gave them but we gave them the option in the comments section. We did not give them the second choice.
So those who said no, did they have
They
any
told us in the
comments?
comments.
Oh, some of
Why?
us, yeah.
Okay.
And I included all the comments in there. Some of them are.
But much of what they said conflicted, there were comments about starting earlier in August. Well, that's not a choice.
I tried to lay out the rules and guidelines before, at the beginning of the survey, but we still have people who put that. Full disclosure, some people liked having the extra 2 days there. Some people didn't. They got on me about, don't try to take another day at Christmas. You're already taking some of our days and that. But I just, for the record, my goal was to present the best possible calendar for instruction with the rules we have to work with. And we think we've presented the best possible calendar for instruction because we get as many days in as we can before testing in May. We could start later, or we could take that those 2 days off and go the regular, and I could add 2 days in, a day in October and a day in February or whatever, like some ask. And then I'm gonna add 2 days at the end of the calendar where that's gonna be 2 less instructional days we have before testing. Anything I add to the calendar in after, Memorial Day is not helping instruction, just to be quite honest with you. And we actually had a meeting today and met with the Lieutenant Governor and we voiced our concern about the legislature dictating third Monday of the month of August before you can start, because this is about the worst case scenario you can have. 21st would be the worst, starting on the 20th is the second worst.
The
So,
Lieutenant Governor and his chief of staff were very candid. That's not changing.
yep, that's
That's
ruled by
exactly
the,
what-
that's
that's
ruled
what
by
it
the coastal, counties, and that's not changing. I also broke it out just,
But it looks like they could allow for different sections of the state.
yeah, we
promoted that
put
today.
that out there.
Didn't go anywhere.
I also broke it out by teacher, you know, so I've got it broken out by teacher on the second set of things, and just under 50% said yes, 33% said no, and again 17% said no preference. You know, if you look at the comments and that, there's no calendar I'm going to put out there, or we're going to put out there that's going to make everybody happy.
I mean, we need to consider the things they said, because in case they see something that would even make it better, I don't.
Well, no, I mean, we
haven't
did,
read
I mean, we
them.
have, I
Okay.
mean, we could, and I can make
I don't
a,
know that we need to change anything, but I'm just saying, you know, if they made the comments, we certainly
right,
need to look at them.
that's why I made sure you have every comment that,
And I feel like he has, because what you have is conflicting comments. You have one person that says, do this, another person says, don't do that. So we can read every comment and value every comment, but it's impossible to
You can't address every
adopt,
one
you
of them.
can't,
No, you
because a
can't.
lot of them are in conflict.
Yeah.
So,
Just preference.
the biggest thing I've wrestled with is trying to figure out a way, it is a long time, you know, September and October is a tough time in there, going a long time, and they said, I can't move Labor Day. You know, we go 2 weeks and then we have Labor Day. Well, that's because we have to start so late in August. I mean, I can't change when Labor Day holiday is, you know, and that's one that we've taken.
Just do 3 calendars, let people vote on it, and then move on.
Well, we weren't doing 3, this was gonna be the presentation. We weren't giving them other options.
We'll just do 1 and move on then.
That's what
And again, I think we had,
How
you know,
many
we
teachers,
looked at
Steve, how many teachers do we have?
900,
Okay, 900 opinions.
right. We got 1,500 opinions if we count everybody, so.
Well, your 1,500 opinions, how are you gonna develop a calendar to satisfy those 1,500?
I'm not, and that's why I said, I want to say one more time.
We did include all staff, not just teachers.
Right, we did. The goal was to provide the best possible instructional calendar. And I feel like with the parameters that we have done that.
and
That's what we should be doing.
it's possible that we could have done the 5 days before students for teachers and put a in-service day in October, another one in March. It's possible that staff would have selected that over the option Mr. Hamby gave them, but I would argue that's not what's best for students. What's best for students is the maximum number of instructional days that we can get prior to testing. And that's what's provided. And I think the feedback, while there are 30% of teachers that said, no, I don't like this, but it's what's best for students. So while it's not perfect for me, I still think we need to maximize instructional time prior to testing.
And I think that, you know, if 33% said no, that still is 67% that said yes or I don't care. And for me, if you're not willing to say no, then you'll take whatever. And there were some very nice comments in there.
Yeah.
You know, I know it's, you know, they put that in there, but
You're not gonna please everyone.
no, we're not. I will say this: when we met with our parent advisory group and shared it with them, the first question they ask us, can you do a modified calendar? And we're like,
Greg, don't write that down.
we're like, that's not an option this time. But I expect that, you know,
Well, Pickering's gonna consider it.
well, I
think.
expect that y'all might hear from some of those parents. Now, again, that's the parent advisory group.
Well, there's comments in here, though, too.
There are teacher comments in here that ask us about that.
I
But
think it would be a good idea.
yeah, it's a hard sell. We told them that they had to talk to their SICs and their parent groups first, and because it was parents that stopped it along with a small portion of staff. So, but I'm asking that, you've got the information there, you got that, but that we approve the calendar that we presented earlier for the 18-19 school year, because we need to get one posted and published so we can have people make their plans and we can make our plans and move forward.
Okay.
All right?
Any other questions? Okay.
Field trips, I should have caught this the first time, and I apologize for not catching it when we changed the things with Miss Williams on the took out SLED and put in background. We should have done it in the field trip policy, IJOA-R on the 3rd page. So it's a very minor change under chaperones. Chaperones are required to have a background check on file. This was questioned by, says this kind, so we want you guys to approve that for us and make that change so that we're using consistent language in all our policies.
And the background does include SLED.
Right,
and other.
but it does more than that. So that's a pretty quick one, I think. Any questions on that one? That's probably the easiest one I've presented, quite honestly.
Okay.
And then our final part for us is Ms. Hughes has asked that we do the expulsion letter and revise that. We actually had a couple of different versions out there. One school was using an older version and it said some different, a little bit different language at the bottom. So when we caught that, we decided we want to make sure everybody's up to speed on the same thing. And so down at the bottom, we put in there within 10 days after the superintendent or his or her designee, which is our hearing officer, Ms. Hughes, receives a copy of this telling you when to appear. We don't want to encourage them not to appear. We want them to come in and talk to us, even if they agree that that's what should happen. So we can talk about the plan of where they're going to be, when they might be able to come back. We can help them along with the process. So we think that by letting them take the easy way out, kind of by having that in there, if you don't want to appeal, you don't have to attend. We want to take that part out and try to get as many of those folks in to meet with her as possible. So again, I don't think that's a drastic change. I think it's one we need to
Anybody have questions?
make.
Okay. We're good.
I think that's it for me.
Okay, Ms. Hop.
Yes,
You're
good
next.
evening. So, as we got the board pack out, we failed to get one of the documents out to you, but I thought it's good as well because it's kind of a Christmas present, so it's attached to your Christmas card tonight. We did not have our ranking the last time we talked about ACT data, and so tonight I'm bringing to you our 2017 ranking, and I'm very pleased to point out to you that we have improved our ranking in the 82 districts in the state in all categories of the ACT test based on last spring's data. From 26th up to 12th in writing, 39th up to 16th in English, 21st up to 15 in reading, and I'm really excited because we've worked so hard on the reading and writing programs about that. 31st up to 20th in math, and 23rd up to 21st in science, with an overall improvement of 16 levels up to District 17. So, Merry Christmas on that one. Also in your pack, you have the breakdown by school information and our percentage of students that are college ready, and that's still looking good.
Explain this, I mean, when I read that, the college ready part.
Sure,
Go back
the second page.
Yeah,
So-
the N and the
N-
Y.
N and Y on the left is going to be whether or not N would be no, they're not college ready, and Y would be yes, they are college ready. And then the N in the row if we look across English, that N is how many students were involved in the testing. So if I'm looking
Right.
at Seneca High in English, we had 123 students that participated in the assessment that were not college-ready in English, representing 53.48% of the students. Out of those same students, 107 were college-ready, or 46.52% of the students were college-ready. And you would just follow that across some of the schools.
But then when you get like below that in math, 73% are not ready.
In Seneca High School, that's true. But you also have to remember that this is our 11th graders taking what's typically a measure of whether or not students are leaving us ready. So, so there's
Okay, that's
certainly
why I
room for
didn't
improvement.
understand.
And we did, just a sidebar, we did just receive a grant. Jennifer Dodd wrote a grant on our behalf to work on our math curriculum. We know that that is our next big focus area, that we really need to get math up across the district. But again, you do have to keep in mind that this is our 11th graders taking the test in the spring, not our graduates.
Okay.
Aren't the, the 11th graders are taking it now. Every 11th grader has to take the ACT.
Well,
Is
for
that-
the past 2 years, and that's part of what I wanted to remind you, that this year, the state has decided, and we talked about this today too with Lieutenant Governor, this year the students have a choice between taking the ACT test
Yeah.
or the SAT test or not testing at all. And that means next year we won't have the ability to bring you this comparison data as we've been able to for these last couple of years, because if you don't have all students testing, now that data is not nearly as meaningful and reliable for helping to rank. I mean, if we were to have 60% of our students take the ACT test, but another district only has 20%, how do you rank that?
Yeah, you're right, but
That's the same problem that we've had for years with the SAT across the country.
That's right.
That's
It's the same.
ridiculous.
And that's
the way
why I
they do
really did
that,
like
you know,
seeing us
that.
go with one test, and I would not have cared whether it was the SAT or the ACT. It's good information, but when you only get a sampling, and it's not a random sampling, it's a voluntary testing situation, it's not nearly as useful for us.
The
It's
percentages.
still good for kids trying to go to college, and that's important too. But for us to look at it as an indicator, we're going to have to rethink our indicator that way.
Yeah, the percentages that are not ready really bother me. And yet, when I look at our rankings here, does that tell you something about where the other
It does.
Yes.
districts are
It does.
Yes.
on this? I mean,
Yes.
my word.
The bar was set fairly high on this.
It has to be, 'cause that's,
Is this not 12th grade though?
That's 11th grade.
This is 12th.
That's 11th grade.
This is actually 11th grade.
Yes, that's all of our 11th grade students that tested.
It's actually the same information that
That we have here.
Yes.
came from both of those, I
Yes,
mean,
just as the
the same
ranking.
information fed both of those charts.
Yes.
Ginger, what, in your opinion, is a good average score on the ACT?
I don't think I don't think you can answer that with a score. I could show you a chart that actually shows where students need to perform based on what their career goals are. And so you would be surprised, but a student actually that's out at Hamilton Career Center that wants to have a career in auto mechanics needs to have a very high score, actually, because reading the manuals and doing the computer work that's on the cars anymore is highly technical, and they actually need a very high score. That's also why their work key scores need to be high. And so I don't believe that college readiness, and this is Ginger, you asked Ginger, now this is probably not an official position, but every student needs to have an individual career plan and goals, and that's why we do an IGP. So we need to know, depending on what they want to achieve, we need to watch their scores and see whether or not they're going to be ready to be successful.
But doesn't the colleges look at particular score, a cutoff score? Don't they look at that and say, okay, if you made a 25, I'll accept it. If you made a 19, I will not?
Right. ACT has done the research to say, based on these test scores, whether or not the student will need to take remediation classes when they get to college, and that's how they determine that. think that's a 21 at this point.
And they accept the ACT now as readily as they do the SAT, is that correct?
Most
Typically, yes,
colleges
and
take
again, that's college or university specific, but in many cases, they're also accepting AccuPlacer or other alternatives.
And there are colleges in our state that
That are not
are saying you don't have to take either one.
Yeah,
In many
I
cases,
know.
Whopper.
Yeah.
in many cases, they're feeling like if a
But
student
you
has
better
taken,
have a high GPA if you don't take that.
That's right.
well, they're saying if a student has taken a dual enrollment course or an AP course or an international baccalaureate course, that's as good an indicator as any as whether or not they're ready for college. So they're beginning to look at GPAs, yes, but also just participation in college equivalent courses.
Thank you.
My other bit tonight is just, we are coming up on the end of the second quarter, at the end of the first semester, and for us this year, that's a little bit more of a big deal than normal, because with the semester block schedule, we're having to do some things differently. And so I wanted to just remind you about that. So we have students that are finishing up their courses in our high schools in early January. That's been a little bit of a moving bit because we had the inclement weather days, and so that moved our end of the semester back a little bit. And then we did just hear from the State Department last week that we could extend retesting for the end of course exams, which of course our students have got to take now, mid-year, that we could extend, not the retesting, the makeup testing into the second semester, which we did not have that permission to do that. So we were going to have to test students on their end of course exam within the first semester early to try to allow for makeup time. But now that's shifted. So there's been a little bit of shifting. You might hear from some parents and students that you said this and now you said that, but it is better, to the point that we made earlier, for students to test as late as they can in the semester to have as much instruction before that. And our principals have accommodated that, so we will be pushing that end of course testing back further in the schedule so that we can use the makeup date for those students that are sick or absent during testing. And students are then also taking their normal end of course exams and those kinds of things. The other thing I wanted to remind you about is Read to Succeed requirements, and we talked about that this morning as well. But the requirement, with this year being the first year that we will retain third graders, is that we must send notification home to parents by the end of the second marking period if their child is at risk of being retained. And so those letters, if they haven't gone out, will be going out by the school shortly. And again, that may result in some folks contacting you all. Is retention a good thing? We've had that conversation, but to comply with the law, we do need to get those letters out, so that will be happening as well. So those are just a couple of things that are a little bit different for us this year.
You will let us know. I'd be interesting to know how many get sent.
Yes,
Just
yes.
to get a
Report that
feel.
in January.
Yeah.
Report that.
Any questions?
Anybody? Okay.
Next, we have an important topic.
Yeah, that one is really
Yeah.
important.
For the,
The next school board meeting is the same night as the National Football College Championship.
I move we change it.
So we would recommend that meeting take place at 5 o'clock, unless you want to just change the date. But we'll make sure it's a short agenda. Mr. Nabinet and I, if we could start that at 5 o'clock, or if you have other ideas, that's certainly fine too.
Well, that's a work session, we'll go back to 2 meetings next month,
Yeah,
so
we
we'll be
will.
able to do that.
So there'll be another meeting on the
So
15th.
that'll be an 8:30 start, at least,
Yeah, I think it said it 8 something. Yeah, we might not care, but we still, it
Yeah,
doesn't
we
matter
might
who's
not.
in it.
May not be
Doesn't matter
important
who's
after
playing,
January
we
1st.
might wanna watch it, you know.
Let's move it to 5 o'clock.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that all right with y'all?
yeah.
And we'll probably, we'll talk about executive session
all right.
as we get closer.
We can do that.
Well, if, we probably need you to take action on that if,
Well, all you really, I don't know whether we have to take action. Can we just not notify the media ahead of time that the time has changed?
It's the same day.
And
I think you approved the meeting schedule saying it's 6.
If you
When
need
you
a motion,
approve-
I'll make it.
When you approved the meeting session, did that not include the times?
Yeah,
So I think since we're deviating from what you've approved, maybe it would be best to.
I mean, that's fine. I just didn't know if we even had
Well, it's
to.
got possible action, so we can take it. I move we change the January 8th meeting date from 6 till 5 p.m.
And I'll second.
All right. Any other discussion? We'll vote. Done deal.
Good enough. We'll make sure that is
All right.
notated and gets out to the media when we send
All
them.
right, well, let's go down to the action items then. We've got some that we've got first and second reading on. The school calendar. Any other comments on that?
No, sir.
If
I don't
you
have a
feel
whole lot more.
comfortable,
Sorry.
okay. Anybody want to make a motion to approve the calendar as presented?
I make a motion that we approve the 2018-19 school calendar as presented.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? That is unanimous. All right, Exhibit 9. Now, if you see some of these that we can combine in one vote, if not, we'll just go through them one by one. Policy 8, IHAQ, career transition to work, second reading. And again,
This was simply, again, clarifying that career specialists are teachers, so they do need to have the ability to be certified for
Have to
classroom
be
instruction,
certified.
and then that we will not require parents to attend parent conferences, but that we'll offer those parent conferences.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve policy IHAQ
Second.
on second reading.
Second, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? That is unanimous. The next two, we can do, Exhibit 10 and 11. This is IHBA Special Education Programs for Students with Disabilities on second reading, and IHBA-E, Delegation of Rights to Make Educational Decisions on second reading.
And to refresh your memory on this, this is required by new legislation. This is dealing with those students that are 18 years of age and whether or not they are able to manage their own education at that point. And the second document would be the form that would be used to process that.
This is the document that they can bring somebody in to work with them, right?
Yes, if that's what they would.
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion to approve on second reading.
I make a motion that we approve policy IHBA, Special Education Programs for Students with Disabilities, and policy IHBA-E, Delegation of Rights to Make Educational Decisions, both in second reading.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Unanimous on second reading.
And then I think the next three.
The next three, policy JFABD-R, admission of homeless students, JFABD-E1, the dispute resolution procedures, and then JFABD-E2, written notification of enrollment decisions. Already, so you want to give a quick...
And yes, these, as you can see again, are pretty minor adjustments, some language things, and you can see here a correction on who the state coordinator is now and just some basic changes like that. But again, this is keeping us compliant with legislation on homeless students. And by the way, we are seeing more and more students that are qualifying for homeless. We've been working hard on this and have done additional work with our administration on this, and will again.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move policy JFABD-R, admission of homeless students, JFABD-E1, dispute resolution procedures, and policy JFABD-E2, written notification of enrollment decision, be approved all on second reading.
Second.
Motion and second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor? It's unanimous on second reading. And then policy IJOA-R, field trips. This is administrative rule, first reading. That's one we talked about earlier,
Just changing sled check to background.
the background check. Do we get a motion to approve this on first reading?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve policy IJOA-R, field trip administrative rule on first reading.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's unanimous. And then the last is policy JKD/JKE-E2, required expulsion recommendation letter. We have an example of that. Well, it's on the screen there. We have a motion to approve.
I make a motion we approve policy JKD/JKE-E2, required expulsion recommendation letter in first reading.
Second.
Have a motion and a second by Ms. Terry. All in favor? It is unanimous. All right, that finishes the action items except for executive session. We need a motion to go into executive session for personnel items, employment recommendations, and changes.
Mr. Chairman, I move we go into executive session for employment recommendations and changes.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? It is unanimous. Thank y'all.